The first shock comes as a faint scrape carried through the pines, a sound that should fade in open air yet holds steady, as if someone drags metal across frozen bark. The leaked clip begins with this noise, and each frame presses a cold weight on the mind. A lone shape sways between the trunks, moving without rhythm, as though pushed by a wind no one can feel. The old camera trembles, its gears grinding while the lantern glow reaches only the nearest shrubs. A strange mark catches the lens, carved deep into a fallen stump. Its lines too straight, too clean for crude tools. What watcher placed it here? Why record this path? The figure collapses, limbs folding in a way that strains belief, and the darkness swallows the frame. In the last silent second, something flashes behind the trees, and the clip ends without answering who walked that forest path or what waited for them. The leaked clip spreads across anonymous forums, stirring old rumors from the forgotten settlement. Scholars argue over each frame, yet no one explains why the camera's angle shifts without a hand to guide it, or why the forest floor shows marks too clean for storm debris. The strange stump carvings echo patterns from journals stored in an archive that burned decades ago. Although the forest looks calm in the footage, something feels wrong in the silence that follows. People claim to hear breathing beneath the static when the clip ends, a soft rhythm that does not match any step recorded in the frame. The mystery grows as viewers notice a faint glow far behind the fallen figure. A pinpoint light that widens when slowed down. No one can agree whether it is a lantern, a reflection, or a watchful presence returning to the trees. Historians tracing the origins of the reel uncover stories about an inventor who vanished before unveiling his mechanical camera. His workshop records mention early experiments with motion triggers, yet none described the kind of focus found in the leaked clip. The forest ranger who discovered the device left sparse notes, cryptic lines hinting at strange noises he heard while carrying it back. Even the local widow, whose warnings once echoed through the settlement, insisted the camera was meant to record something they were never meant to see. As researchers revisit each clue today, they find mismatched details that raise more questions. Missing timestamps, broken gear teeth too finely carved for hand tools, and a brief flash on the edge of the film that seems almost like an eye opening. The leaked clip travels quickly through communities, fascinated by lost history. Yet many viewers feel unsettled without knowing why. Some recall a moment when the camera shudders, its framing narrowing around the fallen shape as though pulled by unseen hands. Others point to the eerie glow that keeps appearing between frames, brightness shifting like a slow pulse. When compared to other equipment from that era, the device's precision seems impossible, yet the past often hides inventions that never reached the world. Still, the sense of intent behind the recording cannot be ignored. Someone positioned the camera carefully, waiting for something to walk that path. Whether it was witness or lure remains the question left to those who dare study the real. Hours of analysis reveal a chilling discovery. The final second of the clip contains a frame that should not exist. Between the collapse and the blackout, a flash shows two silhouettes rather than one. The second stands too close, its posture too rigid to be human. Some claim it reaches toward the camera, though blurred skewers the truth. The pattern carved into the stump appears again, faintly glowing in a strange rhythm. Experts replay the sequence, endlessly searching for motion, but every attempt ends with the same jarring cut. The forest seems to swallow the answers as it did the settlement long ago. What lingered behind that final frame remains hidden, waiting for those who dare to search deeper. The investigators step into the tangled ruins of the settlement, each searching for proof the leaked clip captured something rooted in truth rather than rumor. Fallen beams lie half buried in soil softened by years of decay, yet the outlines of cabins still cling to their old footprints. The air feels unusually still, as if the forest listens to each boot pressing into its floor. Samuel insists the ground has shifted since he last walked this place, though he cannot explain how. Jules studies the shadows between the leaning chimneys, convinced someone once dragged equipment through here. Dr. Zhao notices patterns scraped into a remaining post, lines that echo the carvings in the footage. Eleanor watches the tree line with cautious eyes, certain something waits there, just beyond the drifting light. A slow creep of unease rises as the team marks the first clues. They find a rusted tool rack, its hook snapped clean as though torn free by force, rather than time. Jules photographs each angle, muttering that the damage has patterns too deliberate to be weather alone. Eleanor uncovers a wooden bowl cracked down its center, the split aligning with a thin mark carved into the soil beneath it. Dr. Zhou kneels nearby, sensing an order to the arrangement. She believes the objects were placed during the settlement's final hours, perhaps as warnings or signals for someone expected to return. The forest remains hushed, the wind held back, as though waiting for them to finish piecing every small detail together. The deeper they search, the more inconsistencies rise between historical records and the evidence underfoot. Old reports cite only a handful of tools left behind, yet the team discovers an entire crate of untouched supplies, axes sharpened, ropes still coiled, and lanterns filled with solidified oil. Samuel swears these items never existed when he first surveyed the ruins decades ago. Jules suggests someone returned long after the settlement, vanished, and placed them deliberately. But he can offer no motive. Dr. Zhao believes the symbols etched into nearby bark might mark a path connecting these discoveries. Eleanor listens to the distant forest hum, uneasy that every clue feels like a trail set for them rather than something they uncovered on their own. At the northern edge of the settlement, they discover the first sign that someone may have watched the community long before the disappearance. A narrow ridge of stone rises beside a shallow hollow, its surface marked by deep, linear grooves. Dr. Zhao studies the length of the markings, whispering that they match the shapes found on scraps of a journal linked to the vanished inventor. Eleanor senses a boundary in the air, an invisible line crossed only with caution. Samuel grows uneasy, recalling nights he heard strange tapping from this ridge while patrolling the woods in his youth. Jules captures each angle of the grooves, hoping the film might reveal patterns invisible to the eye. The ridge holds its secrets behind its cold, silent face. As evening settles, the team halts near a collapsed storage shed overrun with ivy. The remnants of a lantern frame lie on the ground, its metal warped by force rather than fire. Eleanor notices the chain attached to it, snapped as though torn in a single violent motion. Samuel senses the same tension he felt when first retrieving the camera in 1912, a pressure in the air that narrows his breath. Jules suggests they retreat until daylight, yet Dr. Zhao insists they document everything before the night deepens. The forest responds with a sudden stillness, muting even the distant creak. A single thought strikes them all. Someone or something moved through this place in the settlement's final hours, and whatever left those signs did not leave quietly. Tension settles over the group as different motives surface in the long shadows of the forest. Jules keeps glancing at the metal case holding the copied reel, guarding it with a nervousness he tries to hide. Dr. Zhao studies him quietly, sensing unspoken truths in the way he avoids her questions. Samuel watches the tree line instead, convinced they are being observed, though he refuses to say by whom. Eleanor turns over each clue in her mind, remembering warnings she once gave the settlement before its fall. She fears those same forces still move through these woods, unseen but listening. The silence between them thickens as daylight weakens, and one thought threads through all their doubts. Whoever recorded that final 20 seconds had a reason, and one of them may know more than they admit. Eleanor leads them toward a secluded clearing, where she once confronted the settlers, warning them that strange figures lingered near their camp at night. Her voice trembles slightly as she recounts the memory, though her steps remain steady. Samuel listens with grim understanding, remembering old patrol nights when he heard tapping echo across the valley. Dr. Zhao questions the rhythm of those sounds, wondering if they match the symbols carved into the settlement. Jules stays silent, his eyes fixed on the underbrush as if expecting something to rise from it. The clearing feels unchanged despite the years, holding an uneasy calm that settles around them like a forgotten whisper from the night the community vanished. Samuel guides them toward an old patrol route he once walked during long winter nights. He admits he kept secret reports about unfamiliar lantern lights drifting through the hills, afraid his superiors would dismiss him. Dr. Zhao encourages him to reveal more, sensing lost meaning in his memories. Jules lingers behind, photographing twisted roots and broken branches that might hold hidden signs. Eleanor studies Samuel's face, realizing he carries a deeper burden than he lets on. The forest feels denser here, the scent of damp soil pressing close. Each step forward tightens the air, as if they approach the same path where the camera once stood, waiting to capture what should have remained unseen. Dr. Zhao studies fresh markings on a fallen birch, her fingertips hovering just above the grooves. She explains that these symbols mirror those found in the inventor's early sketches, though the carvings here appear recent. Eleanor steps back uneasily, convinced someone still uses this place. Jules snaps a photo and mutters that no one could carve such clean lines without special tools. Samuel grows quiet, sensing a pattern connecting the ridge, the stumps, and now these marks. The possibility that someone returned after the settlers vanished tightens, the fear lingering between them. If these symbols guide a path, then they are following footsteps not meant to be traced. As dusk thickens, Jules finally reveals why he stole the reel decades after the disappearance. He admits he saw inconsistencies in the footage that suggested someone edited the original film before the world ever viewed it. He feared the truth would be hidden forever if he did not take it. Eleanor listens with a mix of sympathy and dread, wondering what could have been removed. Dr. Zhao insists the missing pieces might explain the strange glow flickering in the last second. Samuel grips his lantern tightly, angered that crucial evidence vanished under secrecy. The forest darkens around them, the trees leaning close as though waiting for the next confession to surface from the shadows. A low thud drifts through the forest as the team moves deeper into the northern grove, a place none of them marked on their earlier maps. The sound pulses once, then fades, leaving the air trembling in its absence. Samuel halts, lantern angled toward the thicker brush, certain the noise came from something large shifting just out of sight. Jules lifts his camera, hoping the lens will catch what his eyes cannot. Eleanor steadies her breathing, whispering that the forest never made sounds like this in the settlement's final days. Dr. Zhao studies the trees, noticing faint scratches spiraling upward along their trunks. The markings mirror the unknown symbols from the ridge, but here they twist in unsettling directions. The forest feels alive with intention, as though guiding them toward a truth sealed by time and silence. The ground rises into a shallow ridge marked with deep parallel grooves, as if something heavy had been dragged across it long ago. Jules kneels to photograph the patterns, but the soil yields fresher marks beneath the older ones, as though the movement happened again recently. Eleanor steps aside, sensing a pull in the air that feels like a warning. Samuel mutters about old stories of night wanderers, figures some loggers once claimed moved without sound. Dr. Zhao crouches to compare the grooves with the symbols she catalogued earlier, realizing they form a broken sequence that suggests direction rather than decoration. The path points toward the darker heart of the forest, pulling them into a mystery none can fully name. They follow the grooves until they reach a clearing scattered with twisted branches arranged in careful arcs. Eleanor recognizes the pattern instantly. She once saw similar shapes left near the settlement's cookhouse a day before the community vanished. Samuel walks slowly around the arcs, noting how each branch points toward the same direction. Dr. Zhao explains that the formation resembles warning symbols used in several ancient cultures, though none match exactly. Jules circles the clearing with growing unease, filming each arc in hopes to find overlap with the patterns on the lost portions of the reel. The silence deepens as the shapes narrow into a single line stretching toward a distant stand of blackened oaks. The air grows colder as they approach the blackened oaks, each tree scorched in streaks that rise like dark veins. Samuel touches one trunk and pulls back quickly, startled by its unnatural warmth. Dr. Zhao examines the burn marks, realizing they form a symbolic pattern consistent with the inventor's final sketches. Jules films the trunks carefully, noticing faint glimmers along the scorch lines when the light shifts. Eleanor stands back, sensing a boundary here stronger than the one she felt earlier. The forest seems to hold its breath, waiting for them to understand what lies beyond the scorched grove. Every instinct urges them to turn back, yet the trail carved by clues leads straight through these trees. Beyond the scorched grove, they discover a small depression in the earth shaped like a shallow ring. At its center rests a shard of metal wrapped with frayed cloth, untouched by rust. Samuel lifts it carefully, noting its weight feels wrong for its size. Jules murmurs that it resembles a gear fragment from the prototype trail camera, though its design appears more refined. Dr. Zhao observes faint symbols etched into the metal, suggesting it might be part of a second device never documented. Eleanor steps back from the ring, chilled by the idea that someone may have built multiple cameras to watch the settlement. The discovery fills them with a quiet dread, hinting at a larger purpose behind the vanished community and the final 20 seconds of the reel. Night tightens around the forest as the team reconstructs the final hours before the settlement disappeared. The air feels heavier here, as though echoes linger from that long-lost eve. Samuel describes how the settlers prepared supper, unaware that strange tapping noises drifted through the valley. Eleanor recalls the fear she saw in their eyes when she warned them that something had been watching from the tree line. Jules reviews the fragments of the reel, noting shadows that should not exist at dusk. Dr. Zhou spreads her notes along a fallen log, aligning symbols from the carvings with the last known accounts. Each piece they uncover makes the night feel closer, as if time folds and they now stand mere moments before the vanishings occurred. They return to the broken cookhouse foundation where survivors once shared their last meal. Samuel explains how the settlers spoke of a rhythmic clicking echoing through the woods, a sound no creature should make. Eleanor adds that she heard footsteps pacing behind her cabin that night, slow and deliberate. Dr. Zhao measures distances between fallen beams, trying to determine where the trail camera had been placed. Jules believes the camera was not meant to capture a passing figure, but to record something expected to walk through this very space. The idea settles heavily among them, shaping an image of a night filled with fear, unanswered warnings, and the slow encroachment of something unseen. Eleanor guides them to a clearing where she last spoke to the settlers before they vanished. She describes lanterns flickering in strange patterns as though reacting to an unseen presence. Samuel listens with a haunted stillness, realizing her account matches the strange glow in the leaked clip. Jules rewinds a copy of the silent footage, pointing to the faint, widening light in its final moments. Dr. Zhao notes that the glowing point aligns with symbols carved into nearby stumps, forming a pattern she now believes was a warning left by someone who understood the danger. The forest seems to hold its breath as they stand in the exact spot where fear once turned to panic. As the night reaches its darkest point, the team discovers a lone oak bearing a single deep carving. The mark forms a perfect circle split by a clean vertical line. Samuel admits this tree once stood at the settlement's center, though it now sits far from the original ruins, suggesting the forest shifted or the structure moved. Jules photographs the carving, noting its edges remain sharp, untouched by weather. Dr. Zhou recognizes the symbol from an obscure reference in the inventor's notes, identifying it as a sign meant to restrict passage. Eleanor steps back, whispering that she saw the same symbol glowing faintly just before the vanishings. The tree's presence casts a silent warning that the final hour held secrets far darker than expected. Near midnight, they uncover the most chilling clue. A line of footprints leading toward the deep woods, each step pressed into the soil with unnatural precision. The prints belong to no animal and lack the uneven shape of a human stride. Samuel crouches beside them, unable to reconcile their straight alignment. Jules suggests the prints may match the strange figure in the clip, though the spacing seems too exact. Dr. Joe compares the impressions to sketches in the inventor's journals, finding disturbing similarities. Eleanor stands apart, staring at the path disappearing into darkness, realizing these marks may have been the settlers' final trail. The forest swallows the line ahead, leaving only questions that echo through the cold night. A tense chill settles over the forest as the team begins a frame-by-frame reconstruction of the leaked clip. Samuel holds the lantern close, while Jules projects the footage against a pale sheet, stretched between two pines. Eleanor watches in silence, her breath catching each time the figure in the film sways unnaturally. Dr. Joe marks every shift of light on a large page, mapping the glow that expands behind the falling body. The more they study it, the clearer it becomes that the glow follows a pattern, pulsing in the same rhythm as the carved symbols scattered across the settlement. Samuel mutters that the figure's collapse looks rehearsed, almost guided. The thought grows heavier with each passing second. The clip was not a record of chance but part of a larger design set long before the camera ever turned. The next frames reveal a faint outline behind the falling figure, something that appears only when the film slows to its lowest speed. Dr. Joe highlights its shape, tracing its curve like a bent branch yet too smooth to be natural. Jules increases magnification, and the outline pulses once, matching the rhythm found in carvings along the ridge. Eleanor steps back, unsettled by how closely the outline resembles the unknown patterns she once warned the settlers about. Samuel studies the projected frame, whispering that he once saw a similar shape near the edge of the valley, though it vanished when he approached. The team senses the figure in the clip was not alone that night, and whatever stood behind it may have guided the final movements caught on the reel. As the clip advances, the figure's collapse reveals something unexpected. The body twists without resistance, as though held by invisible hands. Jules slows the frame further, exposing a shimmer near the spine in one brief moment. Dr. Zhao compares the shimmer's shape to the etched metal shard found earlier, noting a near-perfect match. Eleanor trembles, recalling how the settlers whispered about a presence that could pull a person off their feet. Samuel clenches his jaw, understanding now that the camera recorded more than footsteps or a wandering figure. It documented the moment something unnatural claimed its victim, captured by a device designed not just to observe, but to expose what moved between the trees that night. The deeper they analyze, the more connections surface between the clip and the inventor's missing notes. Dr. Zhao explains that the symbols carved across the settlement match diagrams describing a vigil mechanism, a device meant to reveal hidden movements in the dark. Jules admits the reel he stole contained extra frames he never understood, frames showing the camera shifting its focus as though guided by an unseen operator. Eleanor presses him for details, and he describes a moment when the camera tilted upward by itself, capturing a silhouette atop a ridge. Samuel steps closer, his voice low as he confesses he once stood on that very ridge and felt as though something watched him from above. The truth grows sharper. The inventor built the camera to confront what lived in these woods. As they reach the final frames of the reel, the forest around them grows unnervingly still. Jules pauses the clip on the last second, revealing a second silhouette behind the collapsing figure. Dr. Zhao confirms the shape matches the glowing point seen earlier, though now expanded into a fuller form. Eleanor gasps as the silhouette's posture resembles someone standing unnaturally tall, head tilted as though aware of the camera. Samuel steps forward, his voice trembling, recognizing the stance from a distant memory he never dared share. The realization sinks heavy into their thoughts. The clip captured not a single victim but a witness perhaps even the cause of the vanishings. The last frame freezes on a faint glimmer where eyes should be, burning through the projected darkness. Dawn breaks slowly across the forest as the team prepares to face the truth hinted at in the final frame. Fog hangs low, drifting through the pines like breath held too long. Samuel grips his lantern even though daylight rises, unable to shake the feeling that the glow in the reel still lurks nearby. Jules checks the film box once more, whispering that the silhouette's stance was too deliberate to be chance. Eleanor scans the tree line, convinced the presence that haunted the settlers has not yet left. Doctor. Joe studies the symbols drawn across her notes, realizing they form a map leading toward the deepest part of the valley. The closer they look, the more it becomes clear that everything, every carving, every groove, every eerie glow, was preparing them for the path ahead. The path the camera once faced before the vanishings. The trail leads them toward a narrow gap in the valley wall, a place Samuel never dared enter in his youth. He confesses that old loggers avoided this section of the forest, believing strange lights drifted from it on moonless nights. Eleanor touches the stone surface, feeling a faint warmth deep within the rock. Jules records everything, capturing the shifting shadows that move even without wind. Dr. Joe identifies symbols carved faintly along the stone, their lines matching the warning marks found throughout the settlement. The carvings align perfectly with the direction of the glowing point in the final frame. With each step inside the narrow gap, the air thickens, as though they cross into a place where the silent witness from the reel once stood waiting. They reach a hollow encircled by towering pines, their trunks forming a perfect ring. The ground inside is unnaturally smooth, as though swept clean by long vanished hands. Jules sets up the projector one final time, determined to overlay the last frame onto this clearing. When the image flickers to life, the glow in the reel aligns exactly with the center of the ring. Dr. Joe kneels, finding faint symbols etched into the soil, nearly erased by wind and time. Eleanor shivers, remembering the settlers, whispering about a place where the forest watched back. Samuel steps quietly into the ring, feeling the same pressure he felt the day he retrieved the camera in 1912. All evidence points to one conclusion. This hollow was the stage for whatever the camera was built to reveal. As the projection fades, a faint clicking begins to echo around them, the same sound the settlers heard the night before they vanished. Samuel raises his lantern instinctively, its flame wavering though no wind blows. Dr. Zhao notices movement between the trees, a soft ripple that bends the shadows in slow waves. Jules steadies his camera, capturing every flicker of shifting light. Eleanor steps closer to Samuel, whispering that the forest feels identical to the night she tried to warn the settlement. The clicking intensifies, pulsing in the same pattern carved into stumps and stones across the valley. It becomes clear the presence in the final frame was not merely watching. It was returning to the place captured on the reel, following the same rhythm, the same glow, as though answering a call laid out more than a century ago. The final silence falls with a suddenness that steals their breath. The clicking stops, leaving only the creak of distant branches. Then, from the far edge of the hollow, a tall silhouette emerges, just as in the last frame, its outline bending the faint light around it. Jules freezes, camera raised but shaking. Dr. Zhao whispers that the shape matches every symbol they traced, a figure meant to stand between worlds. Eleanor grips Samuel's arm, unable to speak as the silhouette tilts its head, acknowledging the lantern's glow. It takes a single step forward, and the forest darkens around its form, swallowing details until only its height and stillness remain. Samuel steps back as the presence fades into the trees with impossible quiet, leaving them shaken and breathless. The reel's mystery is no longer a question of what the settlers saw, but whether the woods ever let them leave.